for being here. Winston-Salem has certainly been full of activity over the past month, so it'll be fun to recap some of that. Just making note that we have sent our meetings out or promoted them and invited the public to attend. So there could be members of the public attending, and I'll keep an eye out or try to keep an eye out on the names that pop up on Teams. Just to make you aware also. Since we do now have a quorum, we'll jump on into the agenda since it's 8:05 and go ahead and review the minutes from our August meeting. If there are any questions on those, any corrections that need to be made.
Nicely done. I move for approval.
Great, thanks, Greg. We have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Donna. Okay.
I will go through the roster for the votes on that. Michael, how do you vote?
Approved.
Sharon, how do you vote?
Approved.
Cindy?
Approve.
And Kim?
Approved.
Great. Thank you.
Great, thanks everyone. And then we, the past couple of months, Kelly shared with us at our July meeting, I think it was, that there was a survey that was going to be coming out, a household transportation survey that was going to be coming out this fall. We have with us a guest from if I'm getting that correct, Francis, I'll let you introduce yourself and do that properly. Who's going to talk more about that survey, the importance, the information that's being collected, and the goals of that, and how our committee can help drive participation in that. So Francis, I will turn it over to you, and thank you for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Sharon.
Francis, I'm not sure if we lost you or I see you're coming on. There we go. Got it.
Thank you. I was okay. I'll just let's start the presentation here. Thanks for having me. My name is Francis Ryu, Transportation Modeling Associate at PART. I actually wanted to take this opportunity to explain more about like why we have the regional travel demand model and how it works related to your land use and scenario planning, and also talk a little bit about ongoing household travel survey. Let's see, give me a second. Okay, so we just kicked off the household travel survey, and we are about to do the pre-test of the survey. So the survey includes the information about the bike and pad travel behavior. So I think it may interest you to look into it. But at this stage, we don't really have much information since the main survey is coming along. But at the end of this presentation, I will talk a little bit more about it. So would it be okay to talk about this travel demand model first? Or you're muted, right. Sharon. All right.
Hey, Francis, I was just going to say that I think talking about the model gives some good context for how the survey, the right. Purpose of the survey. And so, yeah, I think that background, I think the model is new to this group. And so I think, starting with that and kind of working the ground up would be great. That would be great.
That's what I thought. Yep. That's what I thought, but I'm starting to have a concern that I am taking too much time to explain the model versus here we go. So, okay. So essentially, the Pedestrian Triad regional travel demand model is a 4-step trip-based model, and it integrates the tour-based rate model for truck trips and community-based model for scenario planning. So it also has transit planning components for the bus trips. I will move fast for those components. I think it will be better to just explain in a high level. Looking into the model, we prepared the highway networks and transit system. The model also takes socioeconomic data, which comes from each MPO and RPO. And then the model calibrates the travel behavior and validate it with field observation data. Who uses this model? Essentially, MPOs and consultants, I would say. We update the model roughly every 5 to 10 years, and at the end of the update, MPOs will going to apply the MTPs, Metropolitan Transportation Plans, and they use the model for project studies and evaluation, spot processes, and congestion management in macroscopic level. So, also, NCDOT uses the model for program development. So this is the structure of the model, but the first and last step will be your interest. I think the development of socioeconomic data is solely from MPO and RPOs, and you will be using the model to have traffic flow, number of trips in your area of interest. Skip this slide. So here I'm trying to emphasize the input and output. The model takes population, number of employment, number of students, network transit routes, and it returns number of trips by trip purpose and travel modes. Unfortunately, this does not include bike and pad information, but I believe traffic demand and congestion level matters to design the bike and pad networks. At a glance, this is how the model looks like. The colored network is transit route, and the gray ones are road network. We aggregate the socioeconomic data into TAZ level, the traffic analysis zone. Population, household, employment are presented here. And the next step, next stage. This is trip generation. So it's a bunch of regression model to calculate the trip which is generated in the TAZ level. The next stage is the trip distribution. So you will see the lines with the color red being more like congested, more trips generated from TAZ to TAZ. It talks about how the generated trips will be distributed from here to there. So you will have a better understanding with this slide. It's essentially understanding about the trip production and attraction. So production being population and attraction being employment. Looking at the, for example, looking at the red one on the top left, you can see higher population, which is purple, 3,444. From that TAZ to the southwest direction, the trip was generated 50-ish, which is bigger than the other. And that is because the employment number is over 1,000 in that TAZ, which received the trips. So the trips are distributed considering the pairwise population employment combinations. At the end of the model process, trips by TAZ will be assigned to the road networks based on the road attributes, number of lanes, traffic lights, speed limits, and it shows the traffic flows of each road segment. So this is the dashboard to visualize the model outputs. I hope this helped you a little bit for better understanding. the travel demand model. So here we goes back to the beginning of this process. I would like to emphasize the role of socioeconomic data. Each MPO has been providing the population and employment data aggregated to the PAG level. It is the very first step, which has a huge impact in the result of the model. Simple example will be if you don't have any population, there will be no trip generated and therefore no assignment to the road segment. So in terms of that effort, we are now trying a new approach. The community of this, each MPO has been putting a lot of effort into this first two stages, place type assignment and the development status assignment. I'd like to recognize those efforts, and this efforts will be used to generate the socioeconomic data projection in the updated travel demand model. The other component, important component is a household travel survey. So with the COVID-19, we started to have a major travel behavior changes, including work from home, online shopping, food deliveries. So this time, the household travel survey will provide a very important information regarding those changes, and it will be applied to the travel demand model. This is the planned schedule on the right, and we are a little bit behind, but there will be a pre-survey very soon. The invitations are not sent yet, but if you are invited, please take some time to record your travel pattern and address those travel behavior changes. So there will be a public outreach. This is important for the people in Winston-Salem, make them participate actively in the household travel survey. We established data elements to be surveyed, and one of them, they record, the survey records the travel mode. There will be an option for walk bike, including e-bikes and e-scooters. So at the end of the household travel survey, you will be able to receive those information. Yes, that's all I prepared today. If you have any questions, comments, concerns?
Yeah, thank you, Francis. I just wanted to clarify, it seems like in the past, this was really vehicular focused, and this survey is adding in those bike and pedestrian options. Is that correct? That the data was really focused on cars and roads previously?
It is essentially focusing on cars, vehicular patterns. Mm-hmm. But at the, I would say, we will have bike and ped information along with the survey. And I would say we never recognize those travel modes before. I think that is correct way to say.
Yeah. Thank you.
Francis, this is Greg Ehret. Are you incorporating the 2020 census data? Has that been released from the federal government as far as application to your household data and your basic data for your TAZs?
That is correct. So the base year, we call it base year, the current official model is based on 2017, and the next updated model will be based on 2022. And that base year update will be based on the most updated census release.
So has it been divided into the TAZs yet? The data has been compiled and subdivided into the TAZs. Is that correct for the base year?
That's correct. Aggregated to the TAZ. Yeah, because census comes into a smaller piece, right?
Have you had many changes to your TAZ boundaries and so forth based on the changes in the census and their census tracts and blocks and so forth?
I think we have some changes. We have been updating since last year, and to be honest, major change will be the NCDOT's effort to expand the model area. So this green line was the current official model, which is based on 2017. But NCDOT is trying to expand the model area into including all of those presented here in the map. So there is a big change in the model this time around.
They're going to include all those counties into the travel demand model? You mean by TAZ and so forth on each of those counties?
Yes, sir.
Holy cow.
That's what I'm thinking.
That's a big task. Okay. Is the Winston-Salem urban area MPO boundary expanding just by itself? Is that been declared to incorporate more area within the Winston-Salem modeling?
Well, we have, I don't think we have any changes in Winston-Salem, but we're just expanding the overall model area. So we have Winston-Salem itself there, but we are including more around the area.
Greg, to answer your question, no, we have not heard from the federal highways yet as to how our MPO's boundary is going to change. So as of right now, it's still the same.
I see. Okay. I would think you would want to know that before you start applying future year projections and so forth. You would want to get that established.
Yeah, but unfortunately, we're kind of bound by their timeline. So
yeah, okay.
What other services and departments draw off of this? Like when the boundaries there are expanded to include those counties, who else taps into that information primarily?
So if the boundaries of the MPO, if we're talking about MPO specific, if the boundaries of the MPO changes, what that means that there's other communities that can participate in our planning processes the way that the current MPO boundaries, so Winston-Salem, Clemens, Kernersville, Forsyth County mostly, and benefit. And so there's funding available for different projects that come through the MPO, and that's how those member jurisdictions participate in planning efforts. So if the boundary expands for the MPO specifically, then those other communities can participate through the MPO at that level.
Thanks, Kelly. Any other questions from the group? So it sounds like we're going to get invitations to participate in the test and the pre-survey test. From that, we'll have a clear idea of what the survey entails and the types of questions it asks. And then you're hoping that we encourage others to participate as well based on our experience. Did I capture that correctly? Okay. Great. Any other questions from the team about this? And
I think I was going to take the opportunity to drive home the point that Francis was making about how this impacts our planning for the community. Was that, if there's a saying that we use when it comes to the model, is garbage in, garbage out. So if we don't have good information to put into the model, then we cannot effectively plan for the future. Because unfortunately, having done this for, a little while now. If we don't get people invested at the beginning of processes, then when we come and move dirt, because now we're building this and we're building that, then there's an uproar in the community. We're trying to get people invested at the beginning. So this is one effort. There will be many more when we're updating our plans, when we want people to come and participate actively and tell us this is what we want to see. This is what we want our community to look like. And so this is one of the efforts where we want to see where people are going so that we can effectively plan for, okay, maybe we need to rethink how people are traveling and how we are making that equitable, how we're making it so that all modes of transportation have the ability to travel along our roads safely. And so that's kind of what we're trying to get out of this.
That was a great analysis. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Francis. We appreciate the presentation and your time. And I think this was helpful in getting kind of the big picture of how and why this is important and how we can help drive some participation, hopefully.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh. Okay. So I think if you, we have your contact information if we have questions, and we'll look for that pretest. And if you'd like to drop off, you are welcome to continue your day. But if you'd like to listen in to the rest of the our committee meeting, you are welcome to do that as well. Thank you again. Let's see. Check. The next thing on our agenda was an update on the UDO. Carol is traveling this month on a trip out west and hopefully not being blocked from her journey by floods or fires or other things happening on the West Coast. But Cindy, I believe you might have been loosely nominated to provide a quick update on the meeting that you guys had.
I was not prepared. No. Hold on, let me see.
Your name was dropped into an email since Amy and Carol were both going to be out with the hopes that you had.
Yeah, so we did, Amy, Carol, Lynn, and I met with, let's see, I'm just pulling up notes and everything from the meeting.
Fine. I'm sorry to throw that curveball at you.
Oh, no, you're fine. So we met with Kirk Erickson and Amy Crum, and we talked about the UDO and ways in which the Bicycle Pedestrian Active Mobility Advisory Committee can assist the city and in city planning. And so we found out that their goal for infrastructure changes is inclusivity and equitability. Mm-hmm. And then there is a plan, Forward 2045, the new plan for equitability and inclusivity. So they have meetings in the spring where they kind of set like the recommendations for changing ordinances and everything. But since we're looking at the UDO currently, and they wanted us to look at the UDO as well and make any comments or notes that we might have that could help the community, or where we would think would be any changes needed in the community. They said that if there were any like urgent matters or something that needed to be addressed sooner, that we could present to the board before next year's meetings and where they set things. If there aren't any, then they suggested, because they can, it's called a text change if it's something that is submitted now after they had the work plan created. But if there isn't anything urgent, then we can again look at the UDO and then make recommendations or comments or anything for next year's presentation and be involved now and ahead of time. They also suggested that members of our committee be present at planning board meetings, that it is important for us to be more involved and to kind of form more of a personal relationship, so they're aware that we're here to help and, you know, working together more. And they said that those meetings are the first Thursday of the month. And that we could also, if we came together and had ideas or wanted to present kind of like forward thinking of what our goals are, that we could even get on the agenda. And I believe October is probably too soon. Or no, they said September was too soon, but that we could probably get on the agenda for October, because November and December, you know, the time frame is like around the holidays, so they probably won't be having meetings in November and December. And then Amy had asked kind of, what is the biggest hurdle for the city, and just kind of, you know, doing the plans and making it more bike friendly and, you know, just kind of moving forward. And they mentioned that the biggest hurdle is retrofitting, because there is sidewalk funding, and, you know, they are trying to put sidewalks in where there aren't sidewalks, but then you have the curb and gutter infrastructure that might not be there. And so they had kind of mentioned, you know, if there is potentially, if we could help, I don't know if it's really lobbying or just awareness that the sidewalk, what did they call it? They called it the sidewalk funding, that all the money doesn't necessarily come from the sidewalk funding, which is where it comes now. And that it would be helpful if those costs could kind of be spread amongst other divisions, like say utilities, because building that extra infrastructure is really expensive, and they don't have the budget in the sidewalk retrofitting budget.
So,
and then, yeah.
Sorry, but when I'm hearing that, if I'm understanding, Matthew may correct me, there might be, you know, a $500,000 for sidewalks, but that money is really for the actual physical sidewalks and doesn't include moving the utility poles or extra pieces of that project that also need to take place in order for the actual sidewalk to be built or expanded. Is that kind of a fair assessment?
So the funding that we get for sidewalk projects, we have to account for all of those issues. So if we need to acquire property, if we need to relocate utilities, if we need to construct curb and gutter along with the sidewalk. So basically anything that would be required as part of the roadway improvement needed to install the sidewalk is what we have to account for when we are budgeting and requesting funds for projects.
Which is why they had said that if there could be cost sharing, like with the utilities group and everything, that it would make the sidewalk budget go further.
Right.
And then we just kind of talked about like, kind of plans for the city, and also a big thing is for us to forward think. Like, where do you see the city in 5 years or 10 years, not just what's going to happen now, because us having a vision and presenting a vision is going to help them with their planning and also buy-in from the community. If there isn't a future seen or, something put out there, because people normally see like a year ahead or what's this one project going to do. If there's something that is presented that shows the long game as well as the short game getting there, then it's easier to get, community involvement and funding and moving forward. They were very appreciative of the committee, and, they're looking forward to like kind of more of a partnership. And they also went over just kind of challenges that they face. You know, they're working on ordinance changes, you know, where they're requiring bike parking on commercial sites and multifamily sites. There's also concerns with, say, when developers come in. You know, I don't know if they have the ability to do it. Maybe Matthew would be able to speak more to this, but, you know, it seems though if a developer is coming in and they're building out a neighborhood, then having them put in sidewalks and tying into, you know, current neighborhoods would be the easiest way to do that. But I don't think that they can require the developers to do certain infrastructure because it comes out of their budget, or they pass it to the homeowner, which then makes things more expensive. And it seemed like that might have been kind of a challenge. Does that sound right, Matthew?
Well, so the UDO has certain requirements of new developments, and you know, say mentioned like a residential development on the new streets in that residential development. The way what the UDO requires right now is that there be sidewalk on one side of all of those new streets. So you know, certainly that's a cost for the developer, and I imagine they're going to pass that on to whoever owns those properties then. And I think for the planning department, that's probably the balance, and for the planning board is the balance of making sure that the infrastructure that is constructed is serving all users, but balancing that with the costs associated with it. I'm not exactly sure, but that might have been the point too,
because we asked about sidewalks on both sides of the streets. And so I think that might have been it, that they require one side and that they can't really push for the second side because of financing.
Right. Well, it would be you would need to change the UDO. We can't require a developer right now to install sidewalk on both sides of the street. So that would have to be a change to the UDO, and it would have to go through that process.
And then if we change that, then our property value, build costs and that kind of thing are likely to go up. And so then you run into the lack of affordable housing cycle.
I think those are the issues that the planning board weighs.
Yeah.
And then they also mentioned that another problem with, because it was brought up about how long it takes to, say, remove a dead tree or fix a sidewalk or these things. And they said that the city is facing staffing issues and that they actually have like 40% vacancies for laborers in the public works department. So that's another issue that they're facing.
That's a huge percentage.
Yeah. They did also mention that you know, some funding is at the state level, but they weren't sure like how it's dispersed to regions. Let's see, it says the city planner at the State Department of Transportation at the state level, but potentially there could be advocating for bonds, but not just bonds for a project, like a recurring bond, you know, for maintenance and everything, because once a project is completed, then where's the money going to come from for upkeep? And then they said that the comparable cities that they use are Durham, Raleigh, Greensboro, Chattanooga, Roanoke, and Greenville, South Carolina. And then there are other, let's see, he also recommended, or they recommended that our committee be visible at, say, council meetings to help drive change. And there's also the city council meeting is the first Monday of every month. And that's about it.
Thank you. Thanks. I appreciate that. That sounds like a really informative meeting. And so just to go back to, since you closed on the attendance at city council meetings, it sounds like they want us to, that those planning board meetings, like like other meetings, are open for public attendance. And so they encourage us to attend those just to have a presence and build relationships and some face recognition, and then consider presenting our plan at on an official agenda item at one of their meetings.
Correct. Yeah. If we come together, you know, and want to present something, then Kirk and Amy could help get us on the agenda.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thanks. And so are you guys planning to reconvene when Carol gets back in town, or do you have a plan yet on reviewing? Okay. Yep.
Yeah, we're looking at the UDO. Amy put it in like a Google Doc that we make comments into together. And then when Carol comes back, we're going to meet again.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. Any other questions or comments on that from committee members? Okay, great. Moving on, the next agenda item, at the close of our August meeting, we had a couple of conversations around two specific projects that we were looking for some updates, and Greg raised some great questions around, and I think Matthew's going to provide some updates on those for us now.
Sure. So I know one of those projects was the Salem Parkway multi-use path, the two phases associated with that. So I can give you a quick update on that. So we do have two separate projects associated with that one trail. And the one trail will run from Lockland Avenue near the hospital to Liberty Street near the Strollway. And the two phases of that, one phase is from basically Peters Creek Parkway to the east to Liberty Street. And the other phase, the second phase, is from Peters Creek back to the west towards the hospital and Lockland Avenue. So we are managing both of those projects, and the eastern section, Peters Creek to the Strollway, that's one that we have designs for that project. And what we're doing is working on the bid package right now. So that project, briefly talk about the history of that. So that project was intended to be constructed as part of the Business 40 project, that section of the trail. But through the course of that project, NCDOT ran into some financial issues. Didn't affect the funding for the project, but it affected what NCDOT could do. And basically, we lost our opportunity to have them construct that part of the trail during the Business 40 project. And so that project has become called locally administered project. So the city is actually managing that project now. So we are working with a consultant to prepare the bid package. It's the final plans, the cost estimate, the nearly 100-page bid document that goes along with a federally funded project. And so the plan is to bid that out this fall yet. So like I said, those plans, the designs were pretty much nearly 100% completed as part of the highway project. So that got us most of the way along. Now it's just kind of finishing out the bid package and getting ready to bid it as an independent project. So that bidding should happen this fall. And then we will enter into a contract with a construction contractor, and then to begin construction, the plan is to begin it in the spring. So that's the eastern section of the business of the Salem Parkway path. The western section was not included. It was outside of the scope of the Business 40 highway project. So it couldn't be designed as part of that project. It was just outside the limits of that. So that's the section from the hospital and Lockland Avenue back to Peters Creek Parkway. And so that we have a consultant on board who is working on the design for that right now. So they began their work last month, and it should take, it's about, I think the schedule was about 16 months for them to complete that design. So if all goes as planned, when we're wrapping up the construction of the eastern section of the trail, the western section design should just about be complete. so we could move to the right-of-way phase and the construction phase of that western section at that time. So both of those projects are fully funded based on the estimates that we have right now. So we're in good shape on both of those, and it's just a matter of taking care of the work.
Thank you, Matthew. I know you've presented on that a couple of times, but it's always good to be reminded and for us to have a little more information when the public's going, hey, nothing's happening, and to be able to share back and be that liaison. Thanks.
Sure. Yeah, I would say, yeah, it may look like nothing is happening on the surface, but underneath is where all of that work is happening right now. And I think the other project was the MLK Streetscape project, which is one that we in City DOT, we're not managing that project. So I've requested an update on that. And what I have on that is it's in the works. It's going on right now. They're working on the design for that right now. The latest was coordination with Duke on the lighting design. So Duke handles the design of the lighting for those types of projects. And the landscape architecture design is dependent on that lighting design because where the lights are going kind of dictates where the landscaping and the other details of that project go. So that's where they are with that project right now. I think the plans, the designs for that the intention is to wrap them up in early 23. So
Matthew,
still in the works. They're still working on it. And if you need, if we want additional detail on that project specifically, I think the best thing might be to have project manager in the engineering department come and speak. And that may be a good topic for this group in general, to have them come speak, because they manage the design of greenway projects generally for the city. And I think that would be another group that this committee could learn a lot from about what's going on and how they manage design and construction of projects.
Matthew.
Yeah.
Is that section, MLK goes from Cherry all the way to Walltown. Is that whole section going to be designed, or?
No, I believe the scope is kind of on the north side, the northern section of MLK, down towards the Winston-Salem State University campus. That section of MLK that's in the scope for this project. And then the other, I think there were some questions about the bike and pedestrian counting program that we have as well, if I remember right. And so we are part of NCDOT's pilot project for bike and pedestrian automated counters. And we've been in that program since 2014. And we have 4 counters throughout the community: Salem Lake, the Strollway, West End Boulevard, and 4th Street downtown. And all of those locations have maintenance issues right now. So at times that equipment will fail because it's in the field 24 hours a day. So it's exposed to the elements, and we have issues at times with maintenance. And so all of those sites actually have some kind of maintenance issue and need right now. And what we learned, we will work with NCDOT and EcoCounter, who's the provider for that equipment. And what EcoCounter informed us of is that the counters have, the way they report the data is through the cellular network. So there are modems in those counters, and they transmit the data automatically. Those counters are on the 2G and 3G networks, which cell providers are phasing out, I think, at the end of this year. So we're at this junction of having to decide whether we upgrade those counters to 4G technology, or if we forego the automatic transmission and actually go out and physically collect the information from each counter. And the NCDOT is kind of grappling with that right now, because the agreement we have with them is that the city will maintain the equipment. NCDOT provided it up front, but we will maintain that for 10 years. So we still have at least 2 years on our agreement for that. And but to replace all of those counters and upgrade them, that's probably a $30,000 to $40,000 investment. And so we have a meeting with NCDOT, and they're going to present to all of the partner communities that are in this program at the end of the month with some of the options that are available to us going forward. So we're not collecting data at some of those sites right now, but we need to figure out how we're going to move forward with the whole program, and how NCDOT is going to move forward with the program from here based on the changing technology. So we're kind of on hold with some of that right now.
And I think there's some question too around where counters should be, like maybe Salem Lake. We may not learn, there may not be new information from a counter at Salem Lake that seems to be pretty consistent, except during the pandemic when there was an obvious spike. But there may be other locations where we would want more information, or where changes are taking place, or that kind of thing.
Right. So I think that's the next phase potentially is, I think there are permanent count sites that are valuable, but having portable counters that we can move and perform studies at different locations would serve a different purpose, and might be more valuable as we're doing our planning work to determine where infrastructure is needed, because it is a major investment of time and money to put in a permanent counter. But if we could have a series of portable counters that we can use to perform studies as needed, then we just have a different product then use for that. I think that's something we'll discuss with NCDOT, is if they can have maybe a group of those counters that are available for communities to borrow basically and use as needed. I think that's one of the points that we'll certainly raise with them as we move forward with the pilot project that they have.
Sounds good.
Where is the counter on Weston Boulevard?
Right across from where, if you're familiar with where Mock Orange Bikes used to be, they're right at Haynes Park. There's one on the one side of the road, and then there's a counter on the other side of the road as well. And that's a bike and pedestrian count location.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on those? Thanks for those updates, Matthew. Appreciate the extra information and reminders on those. Over the last several months, we've had some membership changes on the committee, and some job changes with folks on the committee. And so I wanted to just pose, I think it's probably an appropriate time, not to get into a lengthy debate over the actual time, but just to make note that we've got a couple of recurring conflicts with our current time. And so I was thinking that maybe it is time to redo our Doodle Poll. So for the original members of this committee, when we were first, I can't think of the word, made members by the city council, there's a word for that. We did a Doodle Poll to determine what day and what time of day worked best for the majority. And so that's how we landed on this current schedule. We now have recurring conflicts with Amy, with Matthew, and with a couple of other folks. Scott, of course, ends up in surgery many of the days, unless we happen to fall on his administrative week. So just if you guys are all good with that, we're going to send out a new Doodle Poll. If anyone is unfamiliar with Doodle, you'll just put your name in and then go through and click the times that do or do not work for you. And it should be pretty clear, but if you need a little help with that, just let us know. That good with everyone.
Is that,
Sharon, one thing.
is that for every day of the month, or what? Is there a window of days that you're going to be posting out there?
Yeah, I think we will do a window. I know that it will not include this day, Wednesday. The current Wednesday that we're using will not be included. You are welcome to make note of any like absolute no's that will help us narrow that down. If you have any, like for me, Monday mornings through noon are not an option. And that's every Monday. Other than that, I'm fairly flexible.
I didn't know if we were going to like exclude all Fridays or, you know, evening times or, you know, that sort of thing. I'm just curious as to how broad of a range of days and times in a given month were you going to be considering? So
I think it'd probably be helpful for everyone to send me an email, just if you have existing known major conflicts, send me an email. That will help us narrow some things down. Greg, I do think we're going to open up a couple of evening options to let the group go with that. I enjoy this committee a great deal, but Friday afternoons or weekends are probably not going to be my preferred time frame. Otherwise, like I said, if you guys have known conflicts, just shoot me a quick email and let me know, and we'll work around that as much as possible, and then just put out what we can for a group consensus. Does that make sense?
yeah, that's fine with me.
Okay, great, thank you. And then the last bit of the agenda, as I said, I've been in Chicago. I think this is week 3 or 4 at this point, but Michael, from everything I could see, it looked like record attendance for the cycling events last weekend. I know that the photos I saw, it looked like more people than have ever been in the downtown area, maybe for anything. Any quick updates from you on that? I think on my screen you're frozen.
He's faking us out, I think.
Yeah, Sharon, I think Michael's frozen. But I know I attended Friday night. Oh, maybe Michael's back. I can see him moving again. Can you hear us, Michael?
Yeah, I can, but
Okay.
Everything, Sharon, I heard you start to think, I thought you were talking about gears and guitars, but I didn't hear a word you said. And I still can't. Yeah, I'm not
Sharon,
hearing
you're
it.
on mute now.
I am?
No, Sharon is, I think. Sharon, you're on mute now.
Oh my goodness, this is like a Mutt and Jeff cartoon or something. Michael, I'll just stop talking and let you give an update on what looks.
Yeah, so gears and guitars this year, is everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, so we had Friday night was a brand new event, Streets of Fire, presented by Flow Automotive. They stepped up and really got excited about that, our new event. Yeah, I think overall, I would say we estimated anywhere, I'd say close to 5,000 people on downtown in 4th Street and Marshall, which was awesome. I mean, I've never seen granted, I didn't grow up here and hadn't, don't go downtown a whole lot at nightlife, but yeah, I've never seen anything like that. So it was super awesome. Certainly had a few hiccups, as a program, for our program side of things, but I think we worked through them and we learned a lot. It was super fun. Saturday. And I think if we would have had sunny weather on Saturday, I think that just as many folks would have come out or more so. So it was good though. I mean, we had some rain all day long, super heavy at times. But I'd say we had, hundreds of people, it's kind of hard to see over the grand scope of things throughout the day. And then by the end of the evening, for the pro men's, the rain had stopped. Had a super awesome race. One of our local guys, Will Harden, who grew up here in Winston-Salem and has been on some of our developmental teams here in town. He was in the lead group the whole race and was pushing the pace and ended up finishing third in the pro men's, which is awesome. I mean, he's such a good kid and super upbeat and positive. And I saw him afterwards and the day before, and he was just glowing. I really think that was it was certainly huge for all the participants and the cycling community to see one of our own really step it up and take it to that level. I mean, some of the people he beat in that field have been in the Tour de France. So it's pretty huge, He definitely was kind of turned himself inside out to get that position. But it was really awesome to see. To me, that was the highlight of the weekend, his success on that. But yeah, by the end of the night for the concert, I mean, we had anywhere from 1,500 to 2,000 people still come out. The concert was awesome. Better Than Ezra put on a terrific show. And then Sunday, it's looking like rain again. And once again, it put a little bit of damper on things, but it missed it a little bit in the morning, was overcast and kind of gloomy, but it never really rained at all on Sunday. So we had great participation with our fondos. Everything went well. We had 3 different routes into Davidson County. Well, 2 routes into Davidson County, and then one we did the Long Branch Trail around out to Salem Lake and around. We did have to reroute that because of the water crossing on Salem Creek Parkway or Greenway. But I think it worked really well. Everybody seemed to be real pleased. Once everybody got back, we had kind of family and kids-focused activities in the park. I had a lot of vendors come out and just kind of set up. I say vendors, more organizations representing cycling and health and wellness. And it was good. I mean, everybody was real laid back. We had several local bands. So it was good for me. Some of my counterparts, Mike Cobbler, who I work with regularly on the bike side of things, I saw a whole nother side of him being on stage. So that was awesome to see. And also Ray Bowden, who's kind of the head guy of our thing, he got up there and they both performed. So that was cool. I mean, just having that local band connection there. And yeah, overall, it was great. It was all the partnerships and sponsorship stuff that we kind of pulled in for the event. And I think all our major sponsors were really pleased. And, I heard a lot of positive things. I think the free concerts were super beneficial, just for the flow of everything. In the past, we'd always had a lot of not necessarily conflict, but it created issues when it was like the haves and have-nots. Do you have a ticket? Oh, then you can come in here and watch the race. Oh, you don't? Then you got to stand out there. So I think just opening it up, free concert, I think that made it so much better as well. And hopefully, we can continue to do that in the future with the sponsorship support. Lidl stepped up big time to support that aspect of the weekend. Had a lot of awesome volunteers. Definitely, as this event grows, we definitely need more volunteers because the folks that are there, they end up staying 2 and 3 shifts just because there's not relief coming, and we always figure it out. But it's just I'm so grateful to all the volunteers that come out and really support and get excited. And and then I get messages after somebody's worked 8 hours one day for free. They message me saying, "Oh my gosh, I had so much fun. Make sure you put me on the list for next year." So that to me,
that's great.
Really kind of, it makes me warm and fuzzy just to know that we're hopefully not overdoing it too much with our volunteers and taking advantage, but just really they feel supported and grateful to have the opportunity to contribute their energy and effort. And but overall, we felt like it was a total success. Definitely, the weather put a slight damper on things, but we didn't skip a beat on anything. So yeah.
It was great. Yeah, everything I saw, the social media engagement was just phenomenal this year. The sponsorship engagement looked really, really strong. I had several friends who volunteered and they were posting and commenting all weekend long. And again, those photos, I've been in Winston since 93 or 94, and I've not seen crowds like that in a really long time. It was awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we actually had someone, obviously not on the NCC social media, but on the Winston-Salem Cycling, Gears and Guitars social media, we had somebody there volunteering and making all those posts. So that was able to, somebody deliberately dedicated to that, which was awesome. Yeah, it really enhanced things.
Cool. Thanks. Any other event updates? Anything coming up that we should know about before we close today?
I just wanted to ask Matthew real quick about the 1st and 2nd Street repaving projects, is whether we're going to be having any sort of bike lanes or bike accommodations on those changes in travel patterns and the new pavement down through there.
Short answer is no. So the streets aren't being widened. So there isn't existing room on those streets to put in bike lanes. There are quite a few pedestrian crossing and those types of improvements though. But I'm not heavily involved. I don't recall the exact design. So if you all want an update on 1st and 2nd Street, we can get more information for the next meeting on that.
That's fine. I just curious about that. Since we're doing new pavement, I didn't know if we were putting down the sharrows or doing anything like that. So, okay, thank you.
Thanks, Greg. Okay, our next meeting, October, we're planning for in-person. We'll get more information out about that and also possibly a longer meeting, but we'll look for that Doodle Poll with dates as we get into scheduling. Okay. Thank you all. Appreciate you being here, and we will talk next month, if not before.
Okay. Good
Bye.
morning.
Take care. Thanks.